Before the conflict in Ukraine, our knowledge of weapons systems was largely superficial, as we depended on the information released by manufacturers. However, after over 2 years of war in Ukraine, we are now witnessing the actual capabilities of various platforms, allowing us to assess whether their claimed performance aligns with reality. Take the Russian Su-34 fighter bomber, for example. Its significance in Ukraine is crucial for the operations of Russian aviation. The United States lacks a direct counterpart to this aircraft. While the B-1, B-2, and B-52 are all bombers, they don't have the attributes of a fighter. The F-35 and F-15 can carry out bombing missions, but their capabilities in this regard are limited compared to the Su-34. Unlike typical Russian fighters, it resembles the Su-27 and Su-35 in design, but features an impressive maximum takeoff weight of 100,000 pounds. This substantial weight enables the Su-34 to carry a substantial payload of weapons. To understand the significance of this weight, we can compare it to the Su-27, which has a maximum takeoff weight of 64,000 pounds and is recognized as one of the most agile fighters available. The Su-34, while equipped with two engines, does not match the maneuverability of the Su-27. Both aircraft have a comparable empty weight ratio. The Su-34 weighs 50,000 pounds empty, while the Su-27 is lighter at 36,000 pounds. Yet the Su-34 is not merely a pure bomber. Its maximum takeoff weight of 100,000 pounds falls far short of that of Russia's dedicated bombers, which typically exceed 400,000 pounds. Recent data reveals that the Su-34 is relatively compact for a bomber, bringing it closer to the capabilities you'd expect from a fighter. But how does it really hold up as both? The Su-34 is a two-seat fighter bomber that has proven its worth in bombing roles. But let's dive into its performance as a fighter. It can engage in various types of combat, both air-to-air and air-to-ground. While it may not match a true fighter in speed and agility, with a maximum speed of Mach 1.8, it can swiftly transition between different missions. One of the standout features of the Su-34 is its ability to seamlessly switch from aerial engagements to bombing runs. This means that it doesn't necessarily have to pair up with an Su-27 for support during a mission. In this context, the Su-34 can effectively conduct air combat, ground attacks, and, importantly, execute glide and precision bombing with notable efficiency. What is the Su-34? At first glance, it appears to be a versatile aircraft trying to find its niche among other fighters. Sometimes it relies heavily on support from its counterparts, while other times it operates independently. We've highlighted the impressive capabilities of the Su-34, showcasing its ability to adapt to various missions seamlessly. This adaptability indeed gives it an edge that is not commonly found in other military aircraft. However, the Su-34 also has its weaknesses. Being larger and heavier than a typical fighter jet, it doesn't match the speed of its rivals. Although it showcases notable maneuverability, this won't be sufficient to escape the more agile F-16 in a dogfight. If the Su-34 is struck by an F-16 while fully loaded, it could lead to significant explosions, both in the air and on the ground. The insights presented regarding the Su-34 adequately summarize its performance in the context of Ukraine. Following the Su-25, the Su-34 ranks as the second most frequently downed or damaged aircraft since the onset of Russia's invasion. Numerous pieces of evidence, including photos and videos, highlight instances where the Su-34 was targeted by the Ukrainian Armed Forces air defense systems. These occurrences are not isolated. Last year, Ukrainian sources reported that a Su-34 was shot down over the Bryansk region, alongside a Su-35 and two Mi-8 helicopters. While Moscow suggested that the aircraft suffered a damaged engine, Kremlin sources disclosed that military personnel were dispatched to the crash site to investigate potential sabotage actions. On March 4, 2023, one Su-34 was confirmed downed over Enikievo in the Donetsk region. This acknowledgement came from both Russian and Ukrainian sources, a rare event amid the ongoing conflict. Reports have continued, with a significant incident involving the Su-34 occurring on September 11, 2022. When it comes to the Su-34, there are certain scenarios where evasion becomes quite challenging. The aircraft has seen numerous successes, particularly highlighting its primary role in the conflict. Since the onset of the war, the Su-34 has typically operated in pairs. While its multi-role capabilities have been showcased, it's clear that it struggles against dedicated fighter jets. Hence, its achievements are predominantly tied to bombing missions. The first notable instance of the Su-34's effectiveness dates back to mid-last year. However, this year has seen an increase in its operations and significance. For example, in March, there were reports of the Su-34 successfully deploying ground gliding bombs in pair with the Su-57. Shortly afterward, it was revealed that the aircraft had been equipped with the FAB-500 M62 bomb, although this information surfaced following an unfortunate incident where a Su-34 accidentally released the bomb over Belgorod. On May 8th, a Su-34 identified a base used by Western mercenaries in Ukraine and successfully carried out bombing runs. This year has already marked several successful missions for the Su-34, notably with the deployment of 1,500-kilogram gliding bombs. In 2022, ground combat was the primary focus of the conflict in Ukraine. But by 2023, Russia started experiencing heavier losses of aircraft and equipment in the air. As the year progressed, Moscow adapted its strategies. With unfavorable weather impacting ground operations, the battle for Bakhmut emerged as the most prominent and drawn-out ground confrontation. In the air, although Russia maintained an advantage over Ukraine, it shifted its approach to munitions. The emphasis moved towards aerial bombs rather than missiles. To date, Ukraine has struggled to effectively counter aerial bombs deployed by Su-34 jets from distances ranging between 30 to 50 kilometers. It's noteworthy that following the recent delivery of Su-34s, Moscow intensified its use of aerial bombs. Our sources have indicated that these newly delivered Su-34s were modified for this purpose at the end of 2022. This expansion of the Su-34's combat capabilities was subsequently corroborated by Russian media outlet Izvestia.